Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejas Vinavadhitamastu Ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om. Vasudeva Sutam Devam Kamsa Chanuramardanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum. Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum. So we'll be doing verse 29 of chapter 9 today. And the last one we did was verse 28 last week. And the English translation of that was, "Thus shall you be free from the bonds of action yielding good and evil fruits, with the mind steadfast in yoga of renunciation, and liberated you shall come to me." So in last verse we had seen that if you get that highest state, what is the benefit for me? I will be free from karma bandhan, and we went in detail what it meant. And it will be easy for you to connect to karma yoga, all kinds of yoga, to connect to higher, and then you'll be liberated, moksha, and you'll come to me. So that's what it was. And this verse over here is Samoham sarva bhuteshu na me dveshyosti na priyaha ye bhajanti tu mam bhaktya mahi te teshu chapyaham. Samaha, the same. I'm the same, that's what Bhagavan is saying. Aham is I. Sarva bhuteshu, all the beings. Humans and all the other beings also. Na is not. Me, to me. Dveshyaha, hateful. Asti is. Na is not. Priyaha, dear. Na mujhe koi, main kisi se dvesh karta hun, na mujhe koi priya hai. Ye is who. Bhajanti, worship. Tu is but. Mom is me. Bhaktya, with devotion. Mai, in me. Te is they. Teshu, in them. Cha, and api, also. Aham, I. That's what the word meanings are. Very interesting verse, because we have this thing, that Bhagwan loves us. Of course he does, but here there is some scientific fact that we have to look at it from that person, that angle. So here he says a very beautiful thing, that I am same to all beings. And so the thing is that what reality is that Bhagwan, he treats everybody same, but the people are the one who differentiate. That's the other side of it, that people are the one who divide themselves into different groups and different things, and then they divide God also, mera God, tera God, things like that. From highest perspective, it is not like that at all. And so as far as the Supreme Ishwar is concerned, for him, everybody is the same. No, and so he says the words na me dveshati, means I don't have hatred or dislike towards anybody. So somebody might say that, hey, if somebody is doing something bad or good, doesn't Bhagwan, that's from the karmic level and all that. But the highest level, he doesn't dislike anybody. He wants to help everybody, whichever way you want to take it. And we'll see some of the examples. That way only we'll understand what it actually means. And I think it was Swami Chinmayananji who said, if somebody does something bad, hate the sin, not the sinner. That's the main point over here, okay? So, so somebody might say, hey, but you might be having some favorite. Or he say, no, na priyaha. I don't have any favorites either. So I don't have any favorites, nor I dislike anybody. All same. Why it is like that is, from that perspective, very simple. Because everybody's expression of God. It's like, our own children. Whoever they are, we love them. So we are same to all of them, same way. So the way Nikhilananji was explaining, this concept of good and bad and pap and punya, these are all relative. terms. Okay? From the absolute standpoint, everything and everyone is Brahman only. And we saw through this. So those are the points that we have to remember. And then he gave the ocean example. From the perspective of an ocean, all waves are same only, whether it's small or big. They are rising from the ocean, going back to in the ocean, doesn't matter, So that's how we have to look at it. Similarly, all beings are the same for Bhagwan. So then, but if you see the other side, we see that, okay, some people are getting liberation and some people are still stuck in the sansar, like us, we are stuck in the sansar right now. But he was just saying that he just joked and he said some people get a proper clearance and some are stuck in the traffic. And when we are traveling, किसी को फटाफट line में हम लोग line में खड़े हैं. So why is like that? So now what it is that from the standpoint of Bhagwan, all are same. Okay, but we saw that everybody approaches Bhagwan different ways. That's where the difference lies, and that's what we have to see. So he is saying in this verse, ye bhajanti tu mam bhaktya means those who come to him, towards him, approach him with bhakti and follow the path prescribed by him. So he's saying that then what happens? Maite teshu chapyaham. So he's saying that they are in me, or what does that mean, this word, they are in me? That means they find themselves one with me. They kind of have the oneness feeling because I'm in them and they are in me. And when we do Swamiji's commentary, he will explain from another angle. So rope and snake angle, and you will see what he means. So if you analyze this further, what does it mean that, I am in God and God is in me? That they understood the very nature of Bhagwan. That everything comes from Bhagwan, there's a oneness there. And then, this thing about, hey, neither I hate somebody nor I love somebody, I'm same to everybody. By examples, we can understand this a lot better. So, for example, suppose in the winter, it gets very cold, and we are on the beach and we kindle a fire, beach fire we did. So, from the fire perspective, fire is just there and it's anybody can take the heat, but for the fire, everybody's same. It's not giving a little more heat to somebody or less. How does that happen? Someone who comes near the fire gets the heat. Or कोई दूर ही बैठा है और वो रो रहा है, oh, it's so cold, it's so cold, doesn't want to walk towards the fire. What can the fire do, right? That's what it means, So it's like the grace of God is on everybody the same. Some people just open the curtain and get the grace. It's like a sunshine coming to every house, and I put a very thick curtain, जो बोलते हैं ना, जिससे light ही नहीं जाती है, and then I close it. I say, oh God, it's so dark. So somebody said, just open the curtain, you will see the sunshine. And somebody has already opened the curtain, he's getting the sunshine. That's what it is. Grace is there all the time on everybody. How much you take, that's up to you, and how you operate. That's what it means. So it's very, very important scientific fact. So some of the other things, so he was just saying the same way the God is same to everyone, but the one who follows the path and come to recognize the closeness of God, because now we saw that God or Brahman is the closest to us, just like the space. Space is far corner also and right here within me also, same way. So one who does the upasana and follows the path of bhakti, they are the one who are going to experience the closeness. And they are the one who is going to feel oneness with God. And they will feel the state of liberation. And once you get liberation, it's total peace and happiness. So, and he was just explaining in his own language, that it's not because God is trying to do partiality to somebody, because some people say अरे उस पे तो बहुत कृपा है भगवान की वगैरह वगैरह बोलते हैं ना हम लोग. ऐसी बात नहीं, सभी पे कृपा है, हम लोग ही बंद कर देते हैं वो कृपा को, इसके लिए नहीं मिल रही है. That's the very nature of Bhagwan, So what do we need to do when we approach Bhagwan? We surrender. That's the when we become free. So Nikhilanand ji, he gives a very good example from our histories like Ramayana and Mahabharata and all that, because what is the significance of Ramayana and Mahabharata? They are practical examples there. So there may be a concept, it's like a case study. Okay, now, hey, how can I do this? So he gave, and everybody knows this story, that रावण का जो भाई था ना विभीषण, राइट, वो रावण को बहुत समझाया उसने कि भाई ऐसा मत करो. रावण ने नहीं माना और रावण को गुस्सा आ गया, उसने उसको लात मार दी वगैरह वगैरह. देन ही कम्स टू रामचंद्र जी, राइट, एंड ही सेज दैट मैं आपकी शरण में आया हूँ. तो जब वो आया ना, तो जितने भी रामचंद्र जी के एसोसिएट्स थे, ऑल दीज सुग्रीव and Jamwant and all that, they said, नहीं, ये तो दुश्मन का भाई है भाई, इसको मत लो यहाँ पर, पता नहीं कौन से इरादे से आया है, he may be a spy. The politics says that you should not accept him because he very dangerous thing. So भगवान ने बोला, nothing doing, मेरे को राजनीति वगैरह नहीं मालूम है, जो भी मेरी शरण में आता है उसको मैं एक्सेप्ट करता हूँ, कोई भी हो, चाहे दुष्ट हो चाहे अच्छा हो, एक बार मेरी शरण में आ गया, that's it. And it seems that whoever has studied Ramayana and all that, जब वो भगवान ने ना उसका जब स्वागत किया, उसको एक्सेप्ट किया, तो उसको बुलाया राजा विभीषण, मतलब उसको लंका का राज्य पहले ही दे दिया. Because he is Bhagwan, he can do anything because he knew, त्रिकालदर्शी होते हैं ना saints and भगवान, उसको लंका का राज्य दे दिया उसको. So somebody had a question. They said कि आप बोल रहे कि आपके पास जो भी आता है, दृष्टांत है, I don't know exactly हुआ या नहीं, but दृष्टांत is good. So that Vibhishan came to you and he surrendered and you accepted him and you gave him the लंका का राज्य. कल को रावण आ गया तो वो भी सरेंडर कर देगा, तो आप उसको भी एक्सेप्ट कर लेते. हाँ बिल्कुल करूँगा उसको, फिर उसको कौन सा राज्य देंगे आप? तो गैस क्या बोला उन्होंने? मैंने बोला मैं उसको अयोध्या का राज्य दे दूंगा. Because he's God, he can give anything. Why? Because there is a hidden meaning behind it. Because whoever surrenders to God has already become good. या तो ऐसे देखो, या एक बार सरेंडर करने के बाद अपने आप अच्छे बन जाओगे. You will not have any kind of mean behavior in you, So that's what it is. And then when we go to the subsequent verses, you will see that Bhagwan says no matter how papi or dush somebody is, once he surrenders, he's become good. So that's what it is. So I thought this was a very good drishtant. And then we also know that, we on all the Puranic stories and in Ramayana, Mahabharata and all that, if Bhagwan kills somebody, वो दुनिया की नजरों में उनके दुश्मन दिखाई देते हैं, लेकिन उनको मोक्ष मिल जाता है. Because the back stories are there, because he is helping everybody. So that's what it is. So, and then Nikhilanandji was pointing out that there are a lot of misunderstanding floating around about Bhagwan and all that. And we use funny terms. Oh, you have to be God-fearing and things like that. And the similar concept is going to come in Taittiriya Upanishad too. So why do you have to be God-fearing? You should be God-loving. God is not sitting there with a danda trying to, punish everybody. So those are our misunderstanding. We should have love, respect, and proper relationship, proper sambandh with God. So this is what this was. It's not a very difficult verse, but very sweet, in fact. So in nutshell, Bhagwan says with total devotion, whoever serves him and dedicate all his actions to him and surrender to him, they are in him and he is in them. There's a oneness. They experience the oneness. And he's not partial to anybody that gives moksha to somebody and not to others. Whoever approaches him, got it. And then he also pointed out one more very important thing, which is pertaining to all of us, that Bhagwan has given us a choice, and this choice is very important for human beings, because animals don't have this choice. Animals' life is kind of programmed life. But humans are the ones that if they want to be bound, they choose the world. And if you want to get freedom, then you choose higher. And then we also saw in previous verses, and it applies over here, that we can choose Devi Sampatti or Asuri Sampatti. We both have that within our mind. So you choose the Devi Sampatti and God and not the world. And then so this is what it is. And then also one more point he said that was very important. He said that bhakti, this kind of bhakti is very sweet and wonderful. It doesn't discriminate for anyone. And so he's saying even the worst person surrenders to Bhagwan, he can get that supreme realization, And he's saying no other qualification is required. He's saying, yeah, worldly, koi bhi cheez, job ho, ye ho, admission in the college, उसमें भी सब क्वालिफिकेशन चाहिए. Some of the schools are even प्राइवेट स्कूल होते हैं ना, किंडरगार्टन के लिए भी क्वालिफिकेशन चाहिए. 3-4 year 5 year old को भी बेचारे को टेस्ट देना पड़ रहा है. यहाँ पर कोई ऐसा क्वालिफिकेशन नहीं. ऑल यू नीड इज अ डिजायर टू अटेन गॉड. मुमुक्षुत्वम they call it. That's the only qualification. That was a very important point he said. So this is what this verse is about. And the next verse is even sweeter verse that we will do next time. But any question or comment about this? मैं किसी से द्वेष नहीं करता, मैं किसी को प्रिय नहीं है कोई, मुझे सब समान है मेरे लिए. Any thoughts, any comments? Anybody wants to add anything for this? I guess none. सभी ने मान लिया भगवान की बात. Okay. So this commentary is very long of this one, so maybe 2 different people can read. Urmilji, would you like to read today? You have come after a long time. It's up to you.
The only thing is my Gita is little older, my edition of Gita.
Okay.
So some of the verses are not there, that newer.
Oh, some of the newer, okay. All right,
Yeah.
okay. So, Anilji, go ahead then.
The same am I to all beings. To me there is none hateful or dear, but those who worship me with devotion are in me, and I am also in them. Like in all ordinary religions, there is in the Gita no make-believe God principle for the mental consolation of the devotees. The Gita caters neither to the weakness in man nor to the glories of the perfection. It is a scientific literature describing without fear or favor the truth and nothing but the truth. The stanza under review is a brilliant example of this characteristic feature of the statements in the Gita.
So see Swamiji's commentary that, lot of maybe other religions or even within Hinduism also, there are so much, sometimes people make, scared of God-fearing, ye hai, wo hai, they do. But here is a complete scientific thing. That grace is there, same on everybody. It's like the rain when it falls, it doesn't choose, oh, I'm going to only go on this house and that guy is very dusht, so I will not rain on it. But how much rainwater somebody can collect, that's up to them. So, very scientific thing. So, it's in that whatever, it doesn't cater to the weaknesses of man or the, glories of perfection. Means it, whatever we make up strange ideas of what Bhagwan, it shatters everything and tells you the truth, what it is, That, so, if we are not getting, we feel like we are not getting the grace, it's because I'm not trying. It's as simple as that. It's always available to everybody,
The self is in all beings. The same conscious principle illuminates the emotions and thoughts in all bosoms of all living creatures. I am in all beings. The same sun illumines all objects in the world, and its rays gets reflected on all surfaces, be it upon the dull, rough surface of a rock or the bright, polished facet of a jewel.
So this is one of the example he's just giving. Basically, is why he is same to everybody, because the same conscious principle is in everyone, right? We saw that Brahman is one, and it illumines everything within us, and then it depends on the illuminating surface how much reflection comes out. That's the main thing. If our mind is, and here, one more fact that we should remember is that the Brahman reflects through our mind. So mind अगर क्या बोलते हैं, वो जो काम क्रोध लोभ मोह मद मात्सर्य से भरा हो, तो the reflection is not going to be good. So the pure mind होएगा तो reflection भी brilliant होएगा. So that's what it is. So it's up to our job to remove all that dirt. It's like I'm trying to look at my face in the mirror, but the mirror has a half an inch dust on it. And then I keep complaining that I can't see myself. I got to remove the dirt first. So that's how we have to see it. Yeah.
To me, there is none hateful or dear. If the same self revels in Krishna and Buddha, Shankaracharya and Christ, in a lunatic and a murderer, in the good and the bad, why is it that some are able to recognize the divine status of the self and others live like worms? In the emotional literature expounding the bhakti cult, there is always this sentimental explanation that it is because, under the Lord's direct grace, some come to manifest a greater amount of divinity. This theory may be satisfactory to the few who do not bring their reasoning capacity into the field of religious discussion. But to an intelligent few, this explanation spells absurd, inasmuch as the Supreme would have to be considered as exhibiting partiality among the world of the living beings. To negate this imperfect explanation and to express the purely scientific theory, Krishna declares the truth that the self is the same everywhere, always, and that to the self there is no distinction between the good and the bad. The self entertains neither a particular love nor any special hatred for any of the living beings.
So again, Swamiji, I think he just grinding in our mind this fact, because then there's some bhakti literature, भगवान की कृपा हो गई उसके ऊपर, and some people feel very, मेरे पर कृपा नहीं हुई है, ये है वो है. None of that flies over here in this. And then I was just thinking about one aspect that somebody might say, if दुष्ट लोग और अच्छे लोग दोनों ही समान है, फिर why should anybody be good then? What it is that when somebody is very negative and does a lot of negative things, he is totally bound to the world. He's not going to approach God. See what I'm saying? To approach God, we have to surrender to the Devi quality. So that all work has to be done from our side. But if suppose somebody has a lot of negativity, but suddenly kind of realizes that, hey, I'm on the wrong path, and start turning around, then he's going to start getting the grace, if you want to use that language. That's all it is. So that you have to look at it from our perspective, from the worldly perspective, that why it is important to be in the Devi Sampati. But even if you are, and the other side, of flip side of it is, we don't need to be dejected about anything. Even if you have done some bad things, I'm not worthy of, going to God. No, everybody is worthy, as long as you want to do it. That's all that matters,
This should not be understood as meaning that the self is an impotent factor, inert and emotionless, with no capacity in itself to bless or to help. Employing the analogy of the sunlight, which we have already examined, the idea implied here can be better understood. Even though the same sunlight reflects itself upon the different types of objects in the world, it is true that the quality and the nature of the reflecting surface will determine the clarity and the intensity of the light reflected. On a dull piece of rough stone, there will be the least amount of light reflected, while in a bright, clean, and polished mirror, there will be perhaps the maximum reflection.
So it's the same thing, right? We saw this example, but I think Swamiji just repeating it because he wants us to understand it completely. That if we feel we are not getting the grace, the problem lies with us. Bhagwan is ready to give his 100% to us. You know, that's what it is. जैसे बोलते हैं ना कि he's waiting, ये कब आए मेरे पास? Or like there are so many other drishtant, with this Sudama and all that, hey, if you take one step, I'm going to take 100 steps for you. He's just waiting, but we have to do, so that's how we understand this.
Because of this difference, some sunlight cannot be accused of having special love for the mirror or disgust for the rough surface. Applying the analogy to the subjective life, it becomes clear that if the spiritual strength and beauty get reflected more through the golden hearts of the rare few, and do not at all get reflected through the iron hearts of the ordinary many, it is because the self entertains in itself any preference to or any prejudice against anyone, but it is only a natural phenomena happening in perfect obedience to the law of the universe.
So, he's just again explaining to us is that if we see in the world, the people, and if we look at all the saints and sages who are self-realized, that's why they also don't hate anybody. We talked about it many times. For them, everybody is same. हर एक भक्त को लगता है devotee को कि he loves me a lot, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with it. But from their perspective, they treat everybody the same because they want to help everybody. They feel like everybody's part of them. So if we see that this practical thing is, and then the other side of it is, some people reflect this Brahman's quality so beautifully and others don't at all. They're like iron-hearted or whatever. So, all that love and this and that is coming through the Brahman only, but we have to open up to it. That's all we have to remember,
Though, thus, in the first line, there is a total negation of any relationship whatsoever between the self and the not self, in the following line, there is a striking idea expressed, which at first smothers the readers with its vivid contradiction. But those who worship me with devotion are in me, and I too am in them. Even though the self has neither any favor for or any prejudice against the non-self, to the extent the non-self worship me with devotion, they are in me, and I too in them. We generally can say that the ghost is in the post, and the post is in the ghost, meaning thereby the non-dual nature of the essence and the supreme imposition upon it. Those who worship the self with devotion come to rediscover that the worshippers themselves are none other than the self that is worshipped by them. My paragraph ends here.
Okay. So he's again explaining in with the example now, because what भगवान ने पहले तो बोला, एक पहली लाइन में बोला कि ना मुझे कोई प्रिय है, ना मैं किसी से द्वेष करता हूँ वगैरह वगैरह. सेकंड लाइन में बोला कि लेकिन जो मुझे भक्ति से अप्रोच करता है उसमें मैं हूँ और वो मुझ में है. So contradiction दिखाई देता है, but that's how it is. We saw Vedanta is full of contradiction, not because they're trying to confuse us, they are trying to make us think. What does it mean? And then the example of the snake and the rope, or ghost or post, is the same thing. So we'll take the snake and the rope because that's what we use all the time. So it's like, even if I'm looking at the rope, but मुझे snake दिखाई दे रहा है, right? But actually में तो वो rope ही है ना, oneness ही है वहाँ पे. But once I realize that it is oneness, even though I will see the snake, I will know it, that it is one. I'm looking at rope only because some lighting it's looking like that, and it's not actually a snake. Same way jo bhakt hota hai na, once he starts his journey and he gets the oneness, even though he's in sansar, he realizes मेरे को दिखाई दे रहा है संसार, actually सब कुछ भगवान ही है. That's why he feels oneness with everybody. So he's just stretching this more and more for us to make us completely understand the concept that who is Brahman and what is my relationship with the Brahman. So the more I have a deeper understanding, I abide in that kind of knowledge, then I will get as though the grace and I feel the oneness. Otherwise I don't. And the Taittiriya Upanishad is going to talk about the same thing. It's going to talk about that, hey, if you feel the oneness, you will have no fear of anything in the world. But if you don't feel the oneness, you will be fearful in your life. Everybody explains this different way, but they're talking about the same thing.
Those who worship me with devotion. This phrase can be initially understood as a mere ritualistic injunction, and it calls forth a little more closer and deeper study to realize its spiritual implications. Worship is a technique by which, in essence, the entire thought force in the worshipper is mobilized and turned to flow towards a diviner point of contemplation, ever seeking a total identity with the truth so meditated upon. When this is done in a spirit of devotion or love, the worshipper comes to realize his total oneness with his object of worship.
So he's just explaining that when Bhagwan said with worship and devotion, what is the actual meaning of worship and devotion? It's not like just going in the mandir and doing some arti or, those are good things. Nobody's saying, but actual meaning over here, what he's talking about is that we, with one-pointedness, we understand who God is, and then we feel the oneness. And you can say that it is a journey within our mind only. Outside there is going to be always duality. But to deeply understand this, through studying the Vedanta and all that journey we take, that is for oneness with the God. That's what he's talking about. And that requires this devotion and worship. We were discussing now, when we say we are devoted to something, in the world also say, what does it mean? All it means that I am doing this particular action and I am getting rid of all the other things in my life. And I'm just devoted to one cause, right? Same way in the spirituality, if you want to experience the oneness, then you have to have that concentration towards it. And that's what he's talking about.
Moji, isn't that what Vivekananda went through?
I mean, all the sages in their own way went through that, 100%. And, that is the purpose also in meditation. These days, there is it's become like a fashion. There's so many different techniques of meditation and all that. And some people just think that you just sit quietly and do a japa, that's meditation. But we should know the goal, no? Goal is that oneness with that Brahman. So that's why first you are decreasing the quantity of thoughts, improving the quality of thoughts, and then you go towards that oneness. So you can take whichever way. I think all the saints and sages, they may explain it in a different way, but they are doing the same thing.
With this implied meaning well in mind, when we reread the stanza, what Krishna meant in this philosophical statement becomes amply clear. Even though truth has neither a preference for nor a prejudice against anyone, some noble souls come to experience and exhibit in themselves the effulgence of divinity because, as the Lord says, they, through their devoted worship, have sought and discovered their oneness with the divine principle, the self.
So, he just explaining more and more. I think Swamiji really want us to understand this concept because this is a very important one, right? Without that, we can move forward. And I was thinking of another example, a very simple one, that we all have electricity in our house, right? And if I don't plug something in there, say my light, and I keep saying, oh, my room is so dark and electricity is not blessing me. Hey, do some effort. Connect it to the thing, and then you will get, the whole house will get lighted. That's exactly what it is. By getting up and plugging. So here also in the worship and everything, that's what we are doing. We are plugging to that higher source.
In the Upanishads also, the same idea has been most expressly described. The idea is not that the eternal self has any freedom to choose or not to choose one individual from the other. It is the individuals themselves who create such conditions in themselves wherein they can come to rediscover the self. Teachers of Vedanta explain this idea by a striking example of a sweet-scented lonely flower on the roadside. The flower is equally available for recognition and enjoyment for everybody passing by that spot. Many pedestrians walk along and pass by, not recognizing either the fragrance hanging in the atmosphere or having the vision of beauty in the flower.
Okay, your paragraph ended there. Okay. Does it say that but a rare few among the passers-by?
That's the next paragraph.
Okay. All right. You can read the next paragraph because it's connected. So then I will explain.
But a rare few among the passers-by approach the spot, become conscious of the fragrance, turn around to investigate its source, and come to be blessed by its beauty, fragrance, and the message of the solitary flower nodding in its thorny bush. Now, if such individuals can be considered as blessed by the flower, to that extent, the realized soul can be considered as one who has been blessed by the self, the eternal.
So very simple example. He gave a very powerful one, right? The flower is blooming, giving its fragrance, and if you are totally preoccupied and you are in your own world, and then you say, किसी ने बोला कि इतना अच्छा फ्लावर था, देखा कि नहीं, कौन सा फ्लावर? पता ही नहीं है उसको. And the other person, he's like as completely conscious of his surrounding, and will say, oh, he enjoys the flower. And then the other one will say, oh, the flower blessed only one person. No, it was your problem. See how simple it is? That's exact. I think that Swamiji gives a great examples, And I'm sure this he picked up from the Vedanta, from one of the Upanishads or somewhere. Beautiful example.
In fact, he, among the pedestrians who had his mind preoccupied with his own marketplace problems, could not come to enjoy the grace of the flower, while that individual who, with his mind free from all preoccupations and alert to all available experiences, came to live the fragrance as though through some special grace of the flower.
So he explained even further, as though. Actually, it is a person's thing only. And then that's why they say that if you are too much in the sansar, you're not even going to question anything. And I have seen people, some people, including in my own family, they will find some problem with Ramayana ka, kya bolte hai, doha, this thing, no, ye nahi ki wo, जैसे probably Valmiki Ramayana में 100,000 verses होंगे, उसमें से 99,900 नहीं देखेंगे. एक को लेके, oh, why did Bhagwan say that? Why did Bhagwan do that? Have some kind of, go and study it. So if you are not going to study, you're not going to get anything. That's what it is. That if you reject it before because you're so preoccupied with so many things, you are going to be the loser. That's what it is.
A mind that is preoccupied with its own ego-centering attachments with the not-self cannot come to live the bliss of perfection, while the same mind, when it has detached itself from its extrovert preoccupations, becomes a ready instrument to seek and to discover its true identity with the self. The condition of the mind declares whether an individual is confused or clear, bound or redeemed. A mind that is turned outwards, rushing out and panting to gain its satisfactions in the world of objects, gets itself bound to the finite. and comes to groan with pain and disappointment, while the same mind turned inward, away from the objects, seeking the self, comes to rediscover its own identity with the spiritual center.
I mean, so beautifully he said, right? If we are constantly, outwardly our senses are going, mind is going, we never internalize, sit and think about God and all that, then you're going to always have problems. Outside world में problem ही problem दिखाई देती है. News देख लो कुछ कोई भी, लगता है whole world is coming. कोई लगता है दुनिया में कोई अच्छा आदमी है ही नहीं. And that's not true. That's not what our experience is. There are good, bad, dualities there. But the more you connect to the higher, the more we are going to feel like as though we are having a grace, because shanti milegi, happiness milega, sab kuch milega humko wahan pe. That's what they're trying to encourage us, that make your own effort for that.
Umaji, Swamiji keeps saying self. I mean, if somebody didn't know that self means the God,
right,
they would think that
self means.
I understand, but like somebody was completely like maybe my son or somebody would say, why self?
True.
Why would you say that? What
So,
would you say?
So, when we study Vedanta or Bhagavat Gita and all that, is very, very important to first understand the meaning. Otherwise, I would say don't even step into it, because it will be a disaster. Because, if somebody doesn't know that what Krishna Bhagavan is saying, they say, why Krishna Bhagavan is so egocentric? For everything he's saying, worship me, do this, do that. Hey, he's not talking about Krishna Bhagavan, the body. He's talking about the consciousness. So, you are absolutely right. And that's why, I hate to say this, but that's Krishna Bhagavan said it himself. You have to be a little bit pre-qualified to attempt Vedanta. Otherwise, you can take it all wrong. So they gave some conditions. थोड़ी सेवा, थोड़ी sadhana, थोड़ा विचार, थोड़ा purity of mind चाहिए. And one person, I think it was, who was it? Nikhilanand ji ने ये किसी lecture में बोला था कि even to appreciate the saints and sages, you need some kind of purity in your mind. नहीं तो उनकी गलतियाँ दिखाई देती हैं. I'm not saying for the fake people, huh? There are, unse definitely bacho. But even the greatest one, they will find some fault in them, because that's what they are doing. Their mind is not pure themselves. So you are absolutely right. The self can, and then when he talks about self, there is always a capital S, even in the middle of the sentence. So whoever, and that is the translation in Hindi is Atma. So एक है परमात्मा, एक है आत्मा. Atma is nothing but परमात्मा ही है, मगर it's expressing through us, they call it Atma. So same way when we say self, means my own nature, my core, my essence of my own being. That's what it is. So I 100% agree with you, and that is the condition required to study this.
In winter, inside a room, one suffers from cold, while outside there is plenty of sunshine. The one who walks out of the room into the sunshine comes to be blessed by the warmth of the sun, while those who bury themselves in their rooms suffer the discomforts of the cold. The sun has neither a preference for those who are basking under its rays, nor a prejudice against those who do not come under its shine and warmth. In the language of this stanza, we may call those who have walked into the sunny courtyard as those who are blessed by the sun, while those who stay indoors are those that are not blessed by the sun.
I think स्वामी जी ने सारे एग्जाम्पल दे दिए कि भाई जब तक हम लोग ये पूरा पढ़ेंगे हम लोग को कोई डाउट नहीं रह जाएगा. That grace is always there and we are not. And it's interesting. Remember, I always talk about that show that I watch, Chosen. Abhi wo season pura ho gaya. We're talking about Jesus. There are so many kind of similarities, because I study Vedanta and all that. In that, they showed a scene where, Jesus had the power given by God to heal people, right? But so there was one guy who was like, had some suffering and all that. And so Jesus' disciple said, why are you not helping him? He's saying he has to come to me. He has to be ready. Then I can. If you're not ready, I can't heal anybody. So that surrender, that thing has to be there. Otherwise, like hypnosis, maybe ऐसे बोलते हैं. If you resist, they can't hypnotize you. Just maybe a poor example, but all I'm saying is you have to be ready. And if you are full of doubt, full of this, it's not going to happen.
Never does the Gita, at any point in its length, encourage man's surrender to circumstances or to his own present debilities and incompetences. As a scripture of activity and optimistic endeavor, the Gita unmistakably emphasizes the ultimate independence of man over his present weaknesses and even over his present circumstances.
Just read that last connection and I'll tell you why Swamiji said that.
Is this path of self-discovery available only for the good? Listen.
So what Swamiji is saying, that no bahana is good enough. I can't do this because that's a completely Bhagwan has given. No matter how many bad karmas we may have done unknowingly or knowingly or whatever, everybody has a choice to get up and change. That's what. And in the next verse, that's what he's going to say. Kitna bhi dusht koi kyun na ho, if he comes towards me, usko tum Mahatma hi samjho. And we have that great example of Valmiki ji, right? He was actually a roadside murderer. He used to literally kill people and loot them up, right? And he became the greatest thing. This is just one dushtant, So basically a human life, they said, is meant for, we have a choice where we want to turn towards. And he's saying it's available to everybody regardless of whatever they have done. Very, very powerful statement, right?
वही इस वर्ष में इतने एग्जाम्पल्स दिए हैं, इतनी एनालॉजीज दी हैं, इतना हैमर किया है हमारे दिमाग में कि अभी अगर नहीं बैठा वहां पे तो फिर तो इससे पिटी.
Yes, तो हम ही को अपना दिमाग जाके धोना पड़ेगा साबुन से अगर नहीं समझ में आया तो. True. Even when I was reading, I said, Swamiji like saying, please understand this.
क्योंकि अगर ये समझ में आ गया तो लाइफ ही बदल जाएगी.
Exactly. It's like, you have nothing to complain about and it is available to us. That's what it is. Yes.
It's a beautiful verse.
Beautiful, very encouraging, very, very, you're absolutely right. It gives us so much boost, so much boost it gives us. Yeah. Any other comment, question?
It is in the simple life that between patient and doctor's relations you can talk. That doctor will not go to the patient has to go to doctor.
Very good example, yeah.
And same is, if alcoholic doesn't think that he is alcoholic, he will never go for the help. So
Right, exactly.
Thing is, you have to think yourself that what you want and where you can go.
Yep. So, the ball is in our court. That's what they say, right? In the West, that's what it is. All the balls are in our court. Yeah. Okay, no other comment or question, then I'll close Bhagavad Gita here. Sarvadharman parityajya mamekam sharanam vraja aham tva sarva papebhya moksha ishyami ma shuchah. Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om.